This is Daf Yerushalmi Peah in the Art Scrolls edition, Daf Samach Zayin, 7 lines down. We are up to Rabbi Chir Rabba Baikun Rabbi Mara, and in the Vilna edition, it's the third line from the bottom of Lamed Dalet Amud Beis. So Rabbi Chir Rabba Baikun Mara. We're talking about Hekdesh Peiros during Shemitah. So what's the status? Lochab opinion yefshar. You can't eat the fruit. It's fruit for obviously it's not kosher mizbeach. It's kosher bedek habayis. It's owned by the bedek habayis. You can't not allowed to eat that fruit until it's redeemed. And you can't eat hekdesh. Even the kohen can't eat it because bedek habayis, not a korban. So lochab opinion yefshar. Shivshar hekdesh. Let's say it's opinion. You can't lose the status of hekdesh without opinion. Lifdos of ochlo. So what about now? Okay, so somebody has to redeem it. Bedek habayis can't redeem itself. The owner comes and was makdish it, and he is and he pays for it, and that way he's paid it. So the problem is that now the halacha is that if something is bought with Shemitah fruit is bought, so then the money has the status of kedusha shvis, and therefore it has to be used for an expenditure of food in and of itself, to buy some other food. So therefore, you're not allowed to use it in order to buy anything else, including an axe. So that's a problem here. So how's this going to work? So the Gemara answers, Amalei, we use a different procedure here. It's not it's not dumya the kinyan. It's not similar to a kinyan. We don't look at it as if it's a kinyan, but rather we say the gizbar machlifo biyad acher. The says the Baz l'mishkachas lebederech chilu lo mahani b'shvius mahani behektish. It's an interesting chap. You don't do it with derech mekach or memkar, which is you normally, which would mean that the money given for the fruit gets the kedusha of peiros shvius, but you do it derech chilu, which applies exclusively to the hektish. So you kind of like. It's the same transaction, but we look at it as only chilul and not pidyon. And if it's only chilul, not pidyon, it's not. Well, it's simple semantics, but it's true. It's a legal loophole. If you do it as a chilul, not a pidyon, so then the hektish falls off, but the shemitah still remains on the fruit, and it doesn't go on to the money. And let's see it buys inside. Lo mahani b'shvius mahani behektish. Nimtza da have a hektish. The money is hekdesh, and the gizbar has to use it for whatever a gizbar can use it. V'loi pas kedusha shvis, but it doesn't have kedusha shvis. Putli mesavos shvis Yerushalmi is shvis mischal derech chilul or davka derech mekach. Ubabli sukkah maskinan the prishon dibra called derech mekach in derech chilul. So the only way in which the shemitah kedusha transfers the money, but it's derech mekach, and therefore here we do derech chilul. Since the derech chilul, so the shemitah kedusha does not transfer to the money; it remains on the peiros. So again, the transactions look identical, but the havamina was we do it b'derech mekach, and therefore how is it going to work? And maskana is we do it b'derech chilul. It's not the person who's redeeming the fruit is not purchasing the fruit, but rather he is redeemed, which entails the shemitah kedusha being transferred to the money, but rather he is just redeeming the hekdesh thereof. The next part of the Gemara of Amar Mitanya, we're going to learn like the Kavanaki and others, that it's going back on the previous Gemara and on the Mishnah. The Mishnah said that Mishnah Olos Holos Lanim. Once the Olos there, Olos Lanim, even if the owner is Makdish the Kerem, because the owner can't be Makdish Kerem Sheinu Shalo, stuff Sheinu Shalo. So that's not, and it was unclear. Since we hold that ein lanim bolos kodem habatzir, the lanim don't have a portion before the bitzira. So therefore, how do you say that the olos are not in the rishus of Baal Kerem? It's called the rishus of Baal Kerem until the harvest time. So the Amud Beis, previously we had said that Ein Adam Makdish Davar Sheina Shalo. Um, uh, and Rabbi Tanya is bothered by this because it seems to be Shalo until actually the time of the Kotzir. So now Rabbi Tanya says a different shot in the Mishnah. And it's based on Rabbi Yossi in the Dorim, very famous Rabbi Yossi Shita. It's where it says that two people are walking along the road and they don't have what to eat, and one doesn't have to eat, and the other one is mudar noise. Now, to provide him with benefit, he can put the food on a fence or on a stone. And he says that it's hefker, and that works because the other guy now can him an hefker. Rabbi Yossi asers. Rabbi Yossi says that you can't. That doesn't work. And Rabbi Yochanan explains the reason Rabbi Yossi because hefker is like a matona, and therefore since hefker is like a matona, just like a matona. Remains the original owners until the new owner gets it. So to here, by hefker, the food remains the original owners until the new owner gets it, and since that's the case, he's getting it directly from the person from who he's now allowed to derive benefit. And there, in the Gemara and the Dorim, it says, this is actually in the Bavli, but perhaps it's in the Yerushalmi too, I don't remember, I'm just like Kavanoki brings that from the Bavli, that because the reason Rabbi Yossi is because his neder came before his hefker, and therefore it's since neder came before the hefker, therefore the hefker can't get out of the neder, can't take him out of the neder. So I don't know if that's necessarily the way that the Bavli explains it. It could be that the Bavli's reason for explaining Rabbi Yossi is because it's not. It remains original owners until it gets the rishus of the konet, and therefore the making hefker doesn't solve the problem. But Rabbi Yochanan here gives no, it is the same reason the Bavli because it's on the side of the Dor Daf side, so this is the Bavli as well. So Rabbi Yochanan says that if the hefker became before the neder. The time Rabbi Yossi Hefker. So the neder came before the hefker, so therefore the hefker can't change that. But if the implication is that if the hefker came before the neder, so then the neder didn't take effect of what he's mafkir, which is pashut, right? Because may hefker, even according to Rabbi Yossi, holds it's not. It belongs to the person who's making hefker until a kona gets it, but you don't have das to take a neder on something which is already hefker. It's not something which you're including in your cheshbon of what you want to make us and the other person. From your perspective, you already dumped this. So therefore, if kadam nidro lehefkero, Ibn Rabbi Yossi would agree. No, Imkalim Hefker and Nitro. You made Hefker before the netter. Even Rabbi Yossi, the netter never took effect on Hefker, and therefore that Hefker certainly is the Lokach can pick it. The other party can pick it up. The whole issue was the case where the netter came before the Hefker, and there Rabbi Yossi says, yeah, well, in that case the netter was to take effect on this Hefker, and therefore there's no way that the other person could pick it up because he's picking it up from you directly because of that sheet Rabbi Yossi. That matana and the hefker is like a matana. Well, I say it again because I'm not sure I said that clearly. Maybe I could say it more succinctly, which is that the Rabbi Yossi holds neders a matana, and therefore it's also for a person's mutter from his friend to provide his friend with food by making hefker because it's as if he's giving it directly. But that's only if the food he's giving was part of the neder. If the hefker was before the neder, so even though it's nominally still in the ownership of the person's now taking the neder, he doesn't have in mind to have his neder take effect on things which he already has relinquished. It's in this respect, Yerush and hefker are very similar because this it's beyond his sphere of consideration, and therefore, even according to Rabbi Yossi, even though he still retains ownership in the hefker, but the neder was never called the hefker, so therefore the other guy can pick it up. I don't know if that was more succinct, but I tried. So here, at the time when when the Baal Bais was makdish his kerem, so he didn't have in mind to be makdish the Ololos either. Again, Ololos, even though they're still technically his, until they didn't pick it up, until after, which is b'shas habotzir here. But just like the nether would not take effect on the stuff he was mafkir in the case of Rabbi Yossi and the Dorim, so to hear the hekdesh, which is a nether, and the olos, which are not in his sphere of consideration because he knows they're not going to be his in the end. That's a very beautiful connection, very elegant. I'm to say. Okay, so that's how we answer the question that why the olos not why the olos. Why we say until the butts here it's not, it doesn't belong to Aniyim. No, because it's not included in his nether. Okay, not included in the sekdish. So let's read inside. Again, according to the Gersa which we're using from the Shadr, so I don't think we necessarily have to go with that Gersa. So let's try and read without that Gersa. Oh, I didn't tell you about the Gersa Shadr, so it's slightly different than Gemara, different Gersa and Gemara, but I don't think it's important. Let's see if we can actually just do it without changing Gersa. The reason it's a problem in Nedalim is because the nether came before the Hefker. But if it's Hefker came before the nether, it wouldn't be a problem. Also, it become Nation Kadam Hefker like they show. The Hefker of Olos, not literally, but for all intents and purposes, came beforehand. In other words, his das was not on the Olos at the time that he made his nether making Hektish. Rabbi Yochanan said, Maisa, this is not really directly related to our Gemara, according to this. Maisa happened. For Rabbi Yossi, they paskin like Rabbi Yossi. Well, that's in the Dorim. What's that to do with us? But so the Kavanaki says that no, they paskin by the Olos like Rabbi Yossi there. In other words, that just like we explained how this works according to our understanding of what Rabbi Yossi would concede in the Dorim. Here to the basket that the Olos belonged to the Aniyim and were not part of Hekdesh, and therefore the Aniyim did not have to redeem the Olos from Hekdesh. No, he says the opposite. It's my story. Became Shekdish about Achashno the Olos or Rabbi Yossi Mestisen. Chibas Aniyim Schar Gidulim Hekdesh. Oh, Schar Gidulam Hekdesh. Sorry, they required to give not to pay for Olos, but to pay Hekdesh for the cultivation of charges. Said yesterday, right? Belongs to them, but they have to pay Hekdesh for Hekdesh having raised their fruit. Okay, so it says more further. They said the Pliga Abi Yechanan. So this is not going on. Again, it's not going to the previous discussion. It's a new discussion that we said in the Mishnah. What's considered to be shikha in an oris, in a trellis, anything where he can't extend his hand and take it. So we want to ask: doesn't this argue on Rabbi Yochanan? Rabbi Yochanan Amar became a char men raise a shikha. It seems like even you can reach back, it's shikha. So it says more no. Shani he baris shedarko libachin. He says by an oris, since it's raised up the ground, he's going to he's going to actually be able to notice it. The way the Kavanaki explains it, the question is really from the Rabbi Yochanan having said previously in Parakeh Halacha Beis that by Zayis, once you pass over that place with olive zara, you can't go back. So here by an oris it's different because the way the harvest takes place is first he takes the heavy clusters and then he goes back for the lighter clusters. So it's not possible to say that once he passes that area he's finished, because very often he goes back and looks back and then takes the small clusters which he didn't notice at first. Okay, that's the way he explains it. That Darko Livcha means he double checks. Now, if he doesn't double check, by the grave he does double check. So doesn't argue even Rabbi Yosha Rabbi Yeshua Rome says he is Zaysim in Rabbi Chia Gadol. I was harvesting olives with Rabbi Chia Gadol. Mamli Ko Zayshad Yochel Lishon Yodach Litlo Eino Shicha. Any olive which you could any olives you could turn around and reach them is not Shicha. So the Ko Zayshad Yochel Lishon Yodo. Because as Yochel Lishon Yodo Licho Eino Shicha. So as it's arguing Rabbi Yeshua. The Roglios. Right, the Roglios, the end of the Mishnah, because the end of the Mishnah said, Roglios Mishayav or Imenu. Why? Rabbi Yeshua said by Isaiah, you can go back, extend your hand backwards. So why by the Roglios can you extend your hand backwards? So before we asked from Rabbi Yochanan, from the Arisin, now it's going to be Yeshua from the Roglios. So Shani Shekol Roglios v'Roglios Umifnei Hasmahu. So each Roglios is considered to be an uman, a row in and of itself, and therefore you can't go back once you pat. According to Rabbi Yeshua, once you pat, even though by olives you can stretch back because it's still considered to be part of the same row. But the here doesn't work that way by Roglios. Each one is considered to be separate, and the Shechem explains that this is because there's 4 amos between each grapevine, and therefore the Roglios are considered to be separate from each other, and therefore it's interesting way he puts it. He says, and it says from this Moshe, it's come from Moshe Feinstein. He says that by the trellis, because it's off the ground like that, so it's possible you're going to miss something, and then you're going to go be boching again to check that you didn't miss anything. But by the Roglios, since it's sitting before you in the ground, so therefore it's very rare, especially because they're separate from each other, because if they're trellised, then they can intertwine on top of the trellis. But here, each one is separate, 4 amos above each other, so therefore you're going to be able to take it in one fell swoop, and you're going to see what's there and not there, and then immediately when you walk away from it, then it's shicha. Okay, so again, and that's also not like olive trees. But olive trees, because it's up off the ground and there are many, many branches, so therefore you might not see something right away, and therefore for Rabbi Yeshua, not Rabbi Yochanan, but Rabbi Yeshua, you can also by Zayis, this is called the dark Rivchon. Okay, says in the next parak. And everybody allowed when it's an open season in leket, then anybody can go and collect leket. When the nemushos go through, and there's several interpretations what nemushos mean, but we'll go with the people who have to walk with canes. But the Gemara is going to give explanations. So once those stragglers go in, everybody else can take it. Prepared olos, prepared olos. Once the aniyim go through the vineyard and go back again, then you can take them. Bezeisim, olos misheter v'yashnia. Once the second rain falls in the year, evidently then aniyim give up with getting any more. Rabbi Yehuda said, the people don't even begin harvesting their olives until after the second rainfall. Maybe at the time when the ani will go out and collect olives, and he'll no longer be able to collect olives to the amount of 4 isaros, which is a very small amount of money. At that point he gives up, and at that point it's free season for everybody else. The Bnei Moshe says maybe Arabic says שתי פדיונים שהפודיון שתי יסורים and פרסם אני עבר מקום כיכר פודיון שכיכר פודיון שהוא מזר שתי סעודות כאילו שאינו maybe זה יסים שתי פודיון שמזר שתי סעודות לא שתי סעודות לאיש לו אבל אני לא רוצה ללקות. It says a story about that this amount would be 2 meals for both him and his wife. If he can't get that much, he stops collecting, he gives up, and then everybody else is allowed to go through the field. And our mamish at the bottom of Samach Zayin Amud Beis, having finished the Mishnah.